This video is sponsored by SmartSeal, Nexus Pro Systems and CleanLink. Check out the link below for exclusive discounts on products and equipment that we use in these videos. Today you're joining us as we pressure wash this roof in Ashford Bank in Redditch, and this one turned out to be a very difficult job with extremely awkward access, hence the reason we hired a scaffolding tower and a cherry picker to help us get the job done. We also got a bit of a telling off from the neighbour about something I've never done before and I'll definitely never be doing again. Grab yourself a drink, relax and enjoy the transformation. So the thing that made this one very awkward was mainly the balcony and the two flat roofs at the back, and the fact that we had to build a scaffolding tower on the neighbour's property so that we could clean the roof down the side. Usually on jobs like this we'd only hire either a scaffolding tower or a cherry picker and not both. But the fact that I had Jakey and Rich with me today, and the fact that Jakey had recently got his iPath license, it meant that those guys could go up and get as much as they could from the front while I did some awkward manoeuvring around the back. We're also trying out this massive 2 metre long lance that I bought specifically for this job from Darren at PWS in Stafford. I knew they'd be able to get pretty close to the roof with the cherry picker basket, but instead of them needing to lean over or hang out of the basket to get close enough to the roof, I thought this would make things a little bit more comfortable and a little bit safer for them. This ended up working really well, and you can see these roof tiles were well overdue a clean. We're getting rid of all that algae, all the moss and all the little white lichen spots, and it's bringing these tiles up like brand new.
Oh, look at it down here.
Right, so it's time for me to build up this scaffold tower and get cracking on the side. For this one I'm using the Gutter Vacuum Systems extendable roof cleaning power pole, and that will allow me to reach up to about 35 foot from the tower. And this is where it gets quite tricky. If you've never cleaned a roof before and you use one of these for the first time, it can be a little bit of a shock, especially when you're cleaning at distance. It can be very difficult to control if you've not done it before, and you'll find it puts strain on muscles that you've never had to use. The main things to remember are not to angle the nozzle so that the pressure washer is sending water up underneath the tiles. You always want it ever so slightly more than around about 90 degrees to the face of the tile, and you'll have to keep making slight adjustments to the nozzle depending on how far you've got the pole extended. The other thing you'll want to look out for is that sudden drop in pressure when you come off the trigger. There's a lot of weight at the end of that pole, and if you're not ready to catch it, you can end up smashing the turbo nozzle through one of the tiles. Luckily I've never done this before, but this is a very common mistake for beginners. These time lapses can sometimes give you a bit of a false impression that these jobs are fairly quick and easy to do, but it's very much the opposite. Once we'd accounted for the pitch, this roof ended up being around about 170 square metres all in. And when you compare that to ground surface cleaning, like when we're cleaning block paving for example, 170 square metres is pretty good going for a two-man team to complete in a day. Obviously it always depends on the customer's water pressure from the tap, and then also how good the drainage is, which can have a massive impact on how the day goes. But then when you're trying to clean a similar surface area when you're up there on a roof and you're not able to walk on the roof, you're not using a standard pressure washing lance, everything's a lot more difficult when it comes to roof cleaning. And just when you think you've finished, it's then time to apply the biocide treatment. So we always make sure we do a chemical treatment on all of our roof cleaning jobs, whether we're just scraping the moss or whether we're pressure washing, just to give the customer that extra bit of longevity and help prevent those organics from growing back so quickly. And then you've got to go around and make sure all the gutters are cleared out. And then one of the biggest daunting realizations with roof cleaning is that all the surfaces surrounding that roof that you've just pressure washed are going to get absolutely plastered in muck and moss and just general sludge that comes off that roof. And nothing's safe. It literally gets everywhere. And so sometimes you finish cleaning that last tile and you think, great, I'm almost done. Now we've just got to clean up. And actually you've probably got another couple of hours left in the job to try and make it look cleaner than when you arrived. Here you can see I had to take the individual pieces of the scaffold tower up the ladder and over the balcony just so that I could reach this back section. The logistics of moving stuff around this property just ended up being really awkward. So now comes time for that massive cleanup. Now I mentioned earlier that we got in trouble with the neighbour on this one, and it was totally my fault. When I quoted the job, I asked the customer to check with their neighbour beforehand, just to make sure they were happy for us to use the side of their property and build that scaffolding tower out the back. Our customer forgot to send that message, and so that led to a little bit of panic in the morning, but luckily they managed to find the neighbour's number and give them a text, and everything was okay to go ahead. And this was really lucky, because if we didn't get that permission, we wouldn't have been able to clean the whole left side of this property. Now when we started the job, we were getting around about 10 litres per minute from the customer's tap. And for anyone that does pressure washing, you'll know that anything less than about 15 litres per minute from the tap, and it means you're going to have a very slow day. You're going to have to keep waiting for the buffer tank to fill up, and this ends up being twice as bad for us because we're filling 2 buffer tanks so that we can run 2 pressure washers. Greedy, I know. So we were probably only getting around about a third of the water pressure from our customer's tap that we really needed. And so, like an idiot, I spotted the neighbour's outdoor tap towards the front of their house, and I thought, they've already given us access, they won't mind if we just use a bit of their water. And it worked. It was great. It meant that we only had to stop a few times, but it didn't really interrupt the flow of the day. Now I've never done this before, and looking back I can see how poor of a judgment call that was. If I was the neighbour, I would have been furious as well. Now the reason I didn't ask is because I didn't want to cause my customers any more problems than we already have. They both had to take the kids to school and get off to work in the morning, and we'd caused a bit of chaos with having to move the cars off the drive and the cherry picker turning up and having to move scaffold towers round and stuff. It was all a bit chaotic, and so I just didn't want to bother them with any more issues. Now realistically we probably used less than around about £5 worth of water, and I did offer to reimburse the neighbour, but that doesn't take away from the fact that I shouldn't have done it in the first place. I should have definitely asked. And so to avoid tarnishing our reputation and potentially causing friction between neighbours, I headed back round a couple of days later, and took the lady some flowers and a bottle of wine just to try and keep the peace and apologise in person. Integrity means everything to me, and so I like to try and do whatever it takes to maintain our reputation, which so far, fingers crossed, has been really good. Thanks for watching. See you next time.